I have no idea who this video is for, but if you are in the middle of a storm right now, if you're wondering if God actually sees you, if you're questioning why obedience feels so hard, I want to share a bit of what God's been teaching me during these past few months. And the reality is, I thought that moving to Thailand would feel like I was living in an answered prayer. And honestly, truly, this has been one of the most challenging seasons of my life. Every single time I have come to Thailand, I have felt nothing but ease, peace, joy, and just like this childlike freedom to just be and to just exist. But I have spent more days, more mornings crying, wondering what I've done, wondering why, like, how did we get here? Yes, I know I did well during the interview. We managed to sell the house before we got here, got on the flight, like all the things worked out. But my thing was like, God, like you let this happen. Like you are the one who allowed every single puzzle piece to fall into place. Yet and still, I am here like holding on for dear life every single day. And there is a level of surrender that takes place when you legitimately, like it has to take place, when you do such a, like go through such a massive transition. And a couple of years ago, I had gone to the Women Evolve conference and the theme was surrender. And as I look back and actually think back in the moment, like that conference set me up for understanding what surrender looked like. But I'm also now remembering how Pastor Sarah kept saying, like, you don't just surrender one time and then be in alignment with God's will. Like, it is a continual surrender. Sometimes it may look like a monthly surrender. Sometimes it may look like a weekly surrender. In Brianne's case, this thing looked like a daily surrender. I had to surrender every last expectation of what I thought this journey would be like. I had to surrender what I thought it would feel like for Darian and I to experience Thailand together. And most recently, I've also had to surrender what I thought my relationships with people back home would look like with this transition. And in that surrender, there's been a crazy amount of grief. There's been a crazy amount of like, almost feeling like daily whiplash, like, okay, God, we're doing this. It's a new day. I trust your will. I trust that, you know, today will be better than tomorrow. 1% better. That was my thing. Like the first few weeks was like 1% better. Just get 1% better. One step further towards the other side. And I had to get to a point where I stopped asking God why. Like, why is this happening? This is not how I thought it would feel like to move out here. And I had to start asking God, what is it that you're teaching me? What is it that I'm meant to learn in this very season? What is it that each of these experiences I'm navigating is meant to mold in me? Whether it is patience, compassion, kindness, like grace. There are just so many things that like I had to go back to other times in my life when I was just like, God, what is this? Like, this is not what we signed up for. But every single one of those inflection points, when I looked back, it was like, oh, okay, yeah, I needed to learn discipline. Yeah, I needed to learn stewardship. Yeah, I needed to learn compassion towards my husband. And so in a way, like taking control back looked like spending time with God. So there was a specific, it's probably in my journal somewhere, but a specific day when I was like, Brianne, you have got to get your morning routine back together. My morning routine is something that I created during the pandemic. Another era of like, what is going on? Like the ultimate, what is going on in my 20s. And I remember I was like, there's so much out of my control. When I turn the TV on, I have no idea how many more cases, how many more deaths. At the same time, we're experiencing George Floyd, Black Lives Matter, all of that. Have no idea what I'm gonna, open my laptop to, open the TV, turn the TV on to see, open my phone to see. But what I could control was carving out intentional time with God every single morning to just ground myself and to download and to actually like submerge myself in his presence. And that is quite honestly, like some days didn't feel like doing it, but that was quite honestly how and when the shift happened internally for me. It was when I finally decided, like, all right, yeah, you can go to the gym, you can, you know, get to work, you can da 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 da, but like there's so much out of your control. Like as soon as you close your Bible, as soon as you turn off the praise and worship music. But for me, it was like I knew what I needed in order to actually start my day with some sense of peace. And so what I started doing is, of course, like I would journal, I would read my Bible. My mother-in-law started, she gave us a book called Prayers That Avail Much, if I remember correctly. And so Darian would read that. And the big thing that actually shifted everything for me was actually, why did I say actually twice? The big thing that shifted everything for me was actually turning on praise and worship music again. And I don't know when I stopped doing that. Like, I think the transition has just been so go, go, go. Like I can't pinpoint when I stopped, but I started doing it again, maybe like 6 weeks ago. 4 to 6 weeks ago. Time doesn't exist here. It exists, but like it's like, what is time? Anyways, I remember I was like, Brian, just turn on the praise and worship music. I love to have my curtains open in the morning to allow the sunlight in. And so as the sunlight is flooding into the condo, we're also getting just like this level of peace coming from praise and worship, and just allowing the spirit to like fill our condo. And that was it for me. It was just like, even if I didn't have the words, even if I didn't actually feel connected, because let's be honest, like there were times when I did feel very, very distant from God, I still knew that in the past, when I had experienced these moments of like uncertainty and doubt and confusion, like when I actually gave the situation back to Christ, that's when things actually shifted. And so that's literally what happened in the situation. Because imagine, the biggest thing for me, I guess like tangibly, was going from having a house that we put so much intention around curating a peaceful atmosphere, like a sanctuary. It felt like our house back in Raleigh was a sanctuary of peace and just like calm. And I think going from that to those first few weeks when we were in the condo, where it was anything but calm. We didn't have our pots and pans yet, so we were like scrambling to try to get breakfast off the streets. And it sounds more dramatic than it is, but like the street vendors would, you know, cook breakfast in the morning. It's actually quite a tradition out here for not a tradition, but like most people, locals, they'll just essentially get their breakfast on the go. And so we would do our workout, and then one of us would sprint to go get food, and then we try to come back and shower, and then I would try to eat before I would leave out for work. And it was just like, even if I did try to have a peaceful morning, it was so much chaos, but by the time I left out, it was just like, I allowed the chaos to essentially consume me. On top of that, we had the sewage smell that no matter how many times the technicians came, no matter how many times we reached out to our agent, and you know, our agent tried to work with the owner's agent to fix the smell, I would still come home from work and be like, oh my God, I can't believe I gave up my peaceful, good smelling, because I always had a candle going and always had flowers in there, like good smelling, expansive house, to be scrambling every morning and eating food that I know is not the best for my body, and also smelling toxic waste. that did a number on me. Like, that humbled the mess out of me. But that was another surrender where it was like, God, I have to surrender this to you. And I remember telling one of my coworkers one day, I was like, this is crazy, but things just have to work out. Because at the time, like, I had basically exhausted all of what I thought I was in control of. I had asked the agent if we could go to another condo. That condo actually smelled worse. It smelled worse than the one that we were in. It was the only other condo that the owner had in this building where we could just transfer our lease and our deposit. So that was a dub. I also was like, can we just get our deposit back and like we'll figure out a new place? They were like, nah. The only option left was that things would work out. And yeah, there was a fourth option that we would lose our deposit and then have to go find somewhere else and pay another deposit. But I remember I told my coworker, I was like, no, they're gonna figure out a solution to fix this. Like, it's just going to work out. And so lo and behold, everything worked out. And they were like, you are so optimistic about the situation. I did not feel optimistic. I did not, I was just like, God brought me out here. It has to work out, point blank, period. And yeah, I guess that's what you call faith. But yeah, every day I was just like, things have to get better. Sure enough, incrementally, we figured out the smell. We figured out, the whole banking system. We figured out how to pay our bills. We figured out how to get around town. And it was just like, Darian got his bike. Then all of our shipments got here and the place started to feel like home little by little. And we are definitely not fully in the clear. Let me be very transparent about that. But I'm constantly reminded that God is with me in this situation, like in very, very, very uncharted territory, in very, what feels like, sometimes it feels like impossible situations. Like, I don't think we can actually quantify how many technicians came and said they fixed the smell, and then 2 days later, it was right back to smelling like dookie. But I was like, no, it has to work out. And so I'll leave you with just one analogy that I don't know when it came to me, I don't know how it hit me, but when you're taking off on a flight, right? Sometimes the best case scenario, you just go zoom and you're coasting. But other times that's not the case, yeah. Other times you gotta go through some thick clouds, you gotta go through some crazy turbulence, and you just know that eventually you're gonna hit flow state and everything's gonna be okay. And if it's not nighttime, when you get through the clouds, you see the sun and you're just like, thank you, God. And having lived in Seattle, oftentimes when we were taking off from Seattle SeaTac Airport, very dark, very gloomy, and we got the clouds and we're getting through the clouds, and then eventually the sun greets us and is like, good morning. And I think that's such a direct analogy to what it's like to be in the thick of the storm in real life, and every day feeling like it's just another punch to the throat, especially when you're like, oh, I bought this first class ticket, like I'm headed to my dream destination. Like I thought, and girl, you thought. That's not directed to you. That's me just reflecting on how she thought things were gonna be these first few months. But I must say that I literally feel myself growing. Like I feel patience growing. I feel, today for example, got my hair done. She's cute, purr. And as soon as I got my hair done, it starts pouring rain. I'm like, the devil is a lie. But I had everything I needed to keep me occupied. I texted Darian. I was like, hey, babe, it's gonna be a minute. Like, I'm just gonna wait out the storm. And it got to about 5:30. And I was like, I think I've exercised my daily dose of patience. Of course, I did not want to ruin this hairstyle because I just got it done. But I also was starving because I hadn't eaten since breakfast. And I wanted to get home and record this video. And so I was like, you know what? Let me put this backpack over my head. And there was a 7-Eleven right down the street. I got me a little poncho, put the poncho over me, and was like, let me just get on the MRT, Underground. Let me get on the MRT so I don't have to worry about, you know, the rain picking up on the back of a motorcycle and my whole entire, you know, fresh look getting ruined. So that's what we did. We were like, we're gonna go with the flow. We're gonna be patient. We are going to give ourselves compassion and grace, and we're gonna keep it pushing. And it's like, in the past, I would have been like, like I gotta, that was so, no, in the past, I really would have been like freaking out, but I can feel myself like calming down. Calm down, Brian. And I can feel myself not getting upset about stuff, like smaller things like I used to, because it's just like, these first few months have taught me, like, you really are a vessel. Like, you're meant to ebb and flow, go with the waves, trust God, let Him be your anchor, and eventually you will get to the other side. You will get to your breakthrough. And so I'll leave you with this last thing for real. Because this morning we had the praise and worship going, and on my spirit was just, I think it's an elevation worship song where it's like, I sought the Lord and He heard and He answered. I sought the Lord and He heard and He answered. I sought the Lord and He heard and He answered. That's why I trust Him. That's why I trust Him. And I played that song a couple times this morning because it's true. Like, it got to a point where all I could do was seek out the Lord daily, every single morning. And I was like, okay, if I can just have the peace, like if I can just hold on to His peace, I can make it through today. And anything that comes my way, like I have to be reminded that I have the armor of God around me, on me, within me. And you walk different when you're reminded of the fact that He is with you. So if you are currently experiencing a storm, if you are wondering if God is still with you, I hope that I was able to articulate in enough depth how pivotal it was for me to stop leaning on my own strength and to start getting back into the intentionality of seeking out God's presence. So if it's worship, if it's the Bible, if it's a daily devotional, if it's one of your prayer warrior homegirls, like, do what you need to do, put on your armor, and remember that He is with you. So this was not one of my typical Thailand videos, but I felt very, very, very called to share testimony in hopes that it will help whoever is watching this, that this video may be for. So that is that. I hope you have a beautiful rest of your day, and I'll see you tomorrow. Peace.